Yo, what's good? What it is, what it's going to be. Welcome to another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, Ksapp. And now you're tuned in to one of the livest sports podcasts on the planet. That's right, the Simply Ball Dropping podcast. Once again, I'm your host and the man behind the mic, Ksapp. And today, we're going to bring our sports edition to you. Like I always do, have my co-host riding shotgun with me. But before we get off into that and bring the guests on, you know how I like to do. Set the vibe right. DJ, kick it.
What's up, Ksapp? Yeah. James Ford, that's me. Let me talk to him. Let's get it. I'm
simply ball dropping, simply ball dropping. Chopping up these topics, man, I'm simply ball dropping. Driving coast to coast, making moves, ain't stopping. Driving coast to coast, making moves, ain't stopping. Nah.
Hey, let me put you on game. These other podcasts out here talking that shit, but ain't repping the same. It's my bro Ksapp, chopping up topics for your optics. From politics to your top picks. Tune in, you gotta watch this. Exclusive material for your radio, stereo, pumping high definition. Stop what you doing and listen. We smashing all competition. You better jump on this wave. Somebody pass me a mic, man, I got something to say.
And now, your host of the Simply Ball Droppin' podcast, the man behind the mic, Ksapp.
Yes, sir. And we right back in. Today's episode, man, is going to be a great episode. And before we get started, I bring my guests on. Just want to give a shout out, to one of my sponsors that's sponsoring the show. That's Boho Chic. So stay tuned.
Boho Chic Boutique is dedicated to the lovers of fashion, specializing in bohemian chic handbags, accessories, and personal shopping. Visit Boho Chic Boutique at bohochictx.com.
BOHOCHICTX.com.
All right, now we back in, and before I bring my guests on, I want to appreciate everybody that's rocking with us. Once you come in the stream, go ahead and share it out, man. Share it out to all your friends and family. Tell a friend to tell a friend. But I'm not going to hold y'all no longer. I'm going to bring my guest on. Well, actually, they're not guests. They're my co-host. They're part of the team. So you know how we give it to you, give you the sports raw and uncut. So welcome co-host RnB to the set. Welcome back, RnB.
Yes, sir, Ksapp.
All right, RnB, man. Appreciate you coming back, dropping the sports knowledge, man. Anything you want to say to the people?
Nah, it's always good to be back, man. It's always good to be back. Thank everybody for listening in today, and I hope you enjoy the show.
All right, now we're going to bring on the other co-host, man. He don't need no introduction. He's always been here. Welcome to the show, Mr. V.
Thanks for having me again, Ksapp. Salute RnB and all the listeners. Glad to be back on another episode of Simply Ball Dropping.
Y'all catch that? Simply Ball Dropping. All right. Well, man, appreciate you guys. Like always, man, we give it to them. They look to us to give us, the sports. So what we're going to do, we're going to start it off. We're going to dive right on in. We're going to, this is by request. One of my listeners reached out to me and he wanted us to give him our take about the New York Knicks. I'll start it off by saying, the New York Knicks, riding off a playoff high from last year, coming into this season, acquisition of Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. Julius Randle has taken a big step. He's taken a big step in the NBA, his game, because I've always thought that, he was a bull in the china shop. You know what I'm saying? He was just reckless, but, he's calmed down. He's worked on that jumper. He's extended his jumper to the 3-point range. He's hitting a lot of shots, but last year he in the playoffs he kind of like fizzled out there for a minute. It was some games that he didn't do too well. I think he thought he was pressing a lot, but this year, he's starting off hot. And as Rob alluded to, man, they started off hot, but they in the 7th seed right now. I know we're 11 games in, but from my perspective is, the Knicks got a young nucleus, man. Derrick Rose is playing, great ball now as a backup coming in. He knows that Tom Thibodeau system, and he's able to do what he's able to do with that ball and control that offense coming in with that second unit. Also, it's a fact that, it's a young group. They hungry. Tibbs got them playing defense, but I'm looking, for them to, ride that wave and get into the playoffs this year. So from your perspective, RnB, on the Knicks, what do you think is going well for them right now?
Coaching, period. The Knicks are finally being coached, and for years they weren't getting that. For whatever reason, someone wasn't connecting to them. So right now the Knicks are really coaching, and Julius Randle is responding to the coaching. I thought he was motivated initially by, trying to get contract money. But the more and more I see him play, I see that's just his game. He's like you said, sometimes he can be perceived as a bull in the china shop, but he's a real passionate, energetic player that has certainly developed his game into one of the upper echelons in the league. He's balling right now.
Yes. Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And, being in the Eastern Conference and, Mr. V's division out there and, the Eastern Conference with the Wiz and stuff. So how do you think that, you see the Knicks playing out and what's working well for them so far?
To me, I think it's like RnB said, coaching. I think they've got some good pieces there, some veterans with some young blood that are energetic. They had last year and what they did, and I think that gave them a little burst of energy and confidence of what they could accomplish. And they came out the gate hot. They're sitting in what, 7th now? I think they're 7-4.
Yeah.
So they're not at the top of the league. They're playing, I think originally how they started out, a little better than expected, which is always good. But it's still early in the season. We're 11 games in. So let's see how things pan out, look when we get towards midseason. But the pieces look good so far. I think they had that I don't know if it was an upset or if you consider an upset when they beat Chicago. To me, that was kind of surprising there because, heard a lot about Chicago and what they were doing. But the East is I think it's a little bit more competitive now than it's been in previous years. So the Knicks are, to me, playing to, at this point, what I'll say their potential. They're 7th. They can move up a couple spots or remain in that 7th seed. We'll see how it goes a little bit later.
Not to cut you off there, but I would just say, as we say 7th seed, they're 7-4.
Yes.
In the conference, 1 seed is 8-3, 7-3 is next, and then 7-4. And just by wins and losses, who you beat, who you lost to, they're in the 7th seed. Certainly they're, playing very well. Tibbs I like Tibbs because Tibbs takes a defensive emphasis on how he approaches the game. And I think when you play defense first, it makes the offense a lot easier. And it's showing because, like I said, those guys are playing well. They're playing well.
Do y'all think the acquisition of Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier is paying big dividends right now?
Kemba definitely. Fournier is a solid player too. I think you need some of that veteran leadership with those two players. So certainly, I think that helps a player like Derrick Rose, alleviate the pressure off of him. That you have some bona fide scorers. Those guys can hit shots. Those guys can come in and hit shots, and they can also handle the point, either one of them. So it makes it easy for D Rose.
But with Kemba Walker, I mean, the thing is, he's coming back home playing in front of his home crowd where he's been playing all his life. High school, college, from the New York era. It's a thing about Kemba Walker, like we always say, Rob, about the bright lights. When the bright lights come on, what I'm saying? He's coming back home and he's asked to perform in Madison Square Garden, the mecca of basketball, the bright lights. I mean, so how do you think he'll handle that as the season goes along, going into the playoffs? If they do get to the playoffs, do you think it'll be too much for him because of the bright lights? Because we saw how he played in Boston last year. I know he was injured, but at the same time, he made his mark when he was in Charlotte. In a small market, he did things, granted, to get his money. Moved on to Boston, didn't bode well with the chemistry because he was in and out of lineup because of the injuries. But coming back home to New York, the mecca of basketball, how do you think that would bode well for him when them bright lights get bright going into the playoffs?
Well, I'll just say this. Boston is no slouch for New York in that regards to the lights. I mean, Boston has its own history in itself. Mm-hmm. So I think there's just as much pressure in Boston as it is in New York. Now, what is different is the media coverage from that aspect.
Yeah.
That can be very critical at times. But Boston is no slouch to New York at all. So I think going into the playoffs, I think he'll be fine. I really do. I mean, I look for him to continue to do what he's done thus far, because, like I said, he was able to perform in Boston, came up short. Let's not get it confused. He did come up short, but at the same time, from a history standpoint, he's going to be okay because he survived in Boston. He didn't get run out of town. It just didn't work. It just didn't work. It wasn't a good fit.
Yeah, I mean that's a valid point. So, Mr. V, with the Evan Fournier, like Rob said, I mean he's a solid player. So, what do you think Evan Fournier will bring to the equation once we get late in the season, the bright lights are on, and you get into the playoffs? Do you think he can withstand the bright lights?
I think all of them can withstand the bright lights. We're talking about NBA players here who made it to the league. They've been around for a while, so they're established. And I think it depends on what our expectations of them are going into critical games late in the season and into the playoffs. Most of the players, you can expect them to be who they are and who they've been. Not too many players adjust. You do have some surprises either way that go into critical games in the playoffs that either exceed your expectations or don't live up to your expectations or our expectations. But, I think he's going to be, the way he's been. Noticing the question, going back to Kemba Walker, though, and I think Brian Kelly's the one who asked the question, can he stay healthy? And I think that's a valid question and a valid consideration to have, just like with any players, but key pieces, can they stay healthy throughout the season to make a difference? And going into the playoffs, can they be healthy enough to make a factor? And as we've seen last year, towards the end of the season in the playoffs, injuries, especially the key players, make a difference. And how they come in with the injuries and how they're dealing with it, again, that can mitigate our expectations with them. So I think Brian Kelly had a good point going back to Kemba Walker. Can he stay healthy when it comes down to it and to perform like we've seen him perform during his best?
I'll just make one point, and I'll be real quick with it. The bright lights do matter. So let's not get that twisted. Bright lights do matter, and whether you can function in those lights matters. And the players that we're talking about have been able to do that. So that's not across the league. Everybody can't perform under the lights. That's all I just wanted to say.
I look at it as performing under the lights as it depends on what you mean by lights. So in a critical game or in the playoffs, it's more intense. Defense steps up. Players tend to play better. The best players, that's when they tend to shine. So if you have a player, let's say that is playing on a level 6, do you expect that player on level 6 to step up to a level 8 during crunch time or during playoffs? Or do you expect that player to play during a level 6 which when other players elevate their game to a level 8, that kind of makes it look like they're not stepping up to it. We saw that with Giannis. We saw that with KD. You see that year after year with LeBron and stuff like that. So you have players who can go this way, then the playoffs they step up. Are we expecting Kemba to exceed what he's done when you're talking about living up to playing under the bright lights, or are we expecting him to be what he's been? And if that's enough, that could be enough, but it may not be enough depending on who they're playing against. I think you got to consider that.
I'm saying he's capable. I'm saying he's certainly capable of either maintaining or even stepping up. And I wasn't necessarily going to go there, but I mean, I think I need to make a point is with your player for the Wiz, Kyle Kuzma. Look at him. He's balling right now. Why? Because it's less pressure than playing in LA. Period.
Yes.
So I'm saying he couldn't handle the pressure of playing under the lights in LA, and now he's with the Wiz. Right now, it's not a lot of expectations on him. So he can go out there and just play freely. So that's why I say everybody can't play with the lights.
Yeah, that's key right there. That's key. That's key that you said that, Rob, because, you know, we always talk about the bright lights of the stadium, the bright lights of the media, you know, because with the bright lights come, you know, the media expectations because you're in a big market. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And Absolutely. A lot of guys, in the reference that you made to Kuzma is flat out getting it done for the Wizards right now. Like, Kuz is averaging like 15 and 10. Man, his rebounding has went up. And like Rob said, when you can go out there and play freely and there's no pressure added to you, you can perform. Because a lot of guys, they get in situations like, I'm going to go back to what you said about Kemba Walker, Mr. V. Kemba Walker's expectations now playing in New York, and you get to the playoffs, you have to rise that 6 to an 8. Because the 6 is good enough for any other team, but the expectations in New York, because of the bright lights in the media, he has to rise that 6 to an 8. Because, you know, them New York fans can be tough too, just like the Philly fans. They can be tough, but the expectations, he has to rise his level of play, and he has to bring everybody else along because, you know, he's the point guard. He's the floor general, you know, just like Derrick Rose. You know, he had some hiccups in his basketball days, and, you know, the injuries derailed his, you know, career, but he got back on a right path, got back with Tom Thibodeau. Coaching does matter. He got in a system where he was comfortable, so he's performing. But when Derrick Rose comes in there, you know, he's the head of the snake. But when Kemba's in there with that first unit in the playoffs, you got to be from 6 to 8.
With that breakdown, I'll agree with you with the question. If you're expecting him, the expectations for him to play better, to move up from a 6 to an 8, okay, I get that. If you're coming in and those of us whose expectations are you play at a 6 during critical times, I expect a 6 to be a 6 when it comes down to it, when they go in there. For the example, and I'll be short with this, with Kyle Kuzma, I don't think that's a good example. He was on a different stage in LA with different players in LA. So you can look at him and say, well, the way he's playing with the Wiz in the pieces he has, of course he plays freer because he doesn't have a LeBron. He doesn't have those big time stars on that big time stage where they're comparing him to those players and being able to step up closer to their level. In Washington, you have Bradley Beal and some other players, so he can come in, play freer because now instead of a smaller fish in a bigger market, he's one of the main fish in the market that he's in there. And I think that brings a different level of expectation than it would be saying when he was playing back with the Lakers.
I mean, I get that. And I wasn't trying to compare him to a LeBron James, but this dude, he was shooting air balls in the playoffs. He's shooting air balls. He couldn't hit the side of a barn. And now he's taking those same shots and he's making them because it's less pressure. So that's the only point that I wanted to make. I'll leave it there.
I mean, that's valid. I mean, it's valid from all aspects. You know what I'm saying? You know, thing about, you know, what we do here, you know, we agree to disagree. Everybody has valid points. You know, people in the comment sections, you know, Mr. Al Green said he agrees with VH1. So, you know, all points are valid. But I'm a firm believer in when them bright lights come on, like we always just say, Rob, gizmo. You know what I'm saying? Gizmo.
Exactly.
You know, when them bright lights come on, what the gizmo do? You know what I'm saying? So
they're flickering.
Yeah, it's like, you're in the big market, but I agree with what Kuz is doing. You know what I'm saying? It's he's adapted to the situation where he can play freely, and it's crazy that the way he's performing.
Yeah, it's like Al Green on the back nine trying to come home. Yeah, no different.
No different.
No different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out
But,
Al
hey,
Green.
so where do y'all see the Knicks finishing off? What positioning do you see the Knicks finishing off? I know it's early in the season, 11 games in. Where do you think they'll position themselves, when the playoff standings are meaningful? Where do you think they'll fall in that Eastern Conference? 3 seed?
Ooh.
3.
That's bold right there. Okay.
I don't think that's a bold statement.
3.
I can see that. With the other teams,
I say that because they're playing defense, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, they got length, and they got some smart players that I think they can get to a 3. I think they can position themselves, get to a 3, and then at that point, it's going to be luck of the draw where the other teams fall. But I think that'll avoid them from facing the 1 seed, which will be the Bucks, and kind of go from there.
Who's your 2 then?
I'm undecided on the 2.
Keep your eye on Chicago.
See, he's not sold on that. That's why if you can't, that's why when you say 3, that's why I kind of was like, okay, that's kind of, I won't say bold, but I was interested to say who's your 1 and 2 that you feel are going to be ahead of them.
At that, obviously, I'm thinking Bucks, and then after that, you would probably obviously say the Nets. They're not going to fall too far,
right?
So I'm saying 1 and 2 between those 2 would put the Knicks in good position at 3.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? At that point, no further than 4 for me.
Ooh,
no further than 4.
Okay.
But it's interesting that you said that because, we put a lot of expectations on the Brooklyn Nets, right? And until it's a lot of pieces in today's NBA right now that just have to figure things out. And I think James Harden right now hasn't figured out how to play with the new rules change, right? He's not getting to the foul line. He's not getting to see the ball go in the bucket. He's struggling from the 3-point range. He's not getting to the foul line at a high clip, and his numbers are down. Yeah, he can still be the effective point guard by passing and doing other stuff, but right now, until he figures it all out, because right now, KD is carrying them right now. Like they asking KD to do a lot more than what KD is accustomed to doing. So it comes to a point where KD got to carry that whole team right now until James Harden gets in a situation where he's figured out how to play, with the new rules change. And then depending on what, Kyrie Irving's going to do, I think it's going to be a struggle. So that's why I said I can't lock them Brooklyn Nets up in that top 3 right now. I think if Kyrie don't come back, I got them Brooklyn Nets falling in around that 4 or 5 spot. I can see Chicago moving up.
They 7-4. They're 7-4.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that's really surprising, if anything, is the Bucks. But they're going to be there. I mean, they're 4-6. The Bucks are 4-6.
Early. Still early.
They're not even in the top 10. But they will be there.
Yes.
In the end.
Yeah.
They will be there in the end.
I agree with that. I think the same thing for the Nets. I think eventually they'll figure it out. And KD is the type of player that can carry them as need be to get into the playoffs. Because, again, we talked about where we see them seeded at when it comes into the season going into playoffs, which, as we talked about before, that's the time for the bright lights, the big stage. That's when it counts. So regardless of where the Knicks land in playoff time, are they going to be competitive with an established team already of Brooklyn, who by that time will have figured out how to play with James Harden, whether he's back to his old James Harden or he's adjusted to the new James Harden. I think they'll figure it out and have been there before. KD did it last playoffs to kind of carrying the load himself, and we saw how that went, as well as some of the other teams that have been there and been established before. And we've seen that, like you said, RnB, with 4-6 start, you're not worried about where the Bucks are going to be. They've established themselves. Once they get into the dance, that's where you see the teams rise to the top and really perform like they need to. Because we've seen many teams that were champions the previous season come in and come off to a slow start for various reasons with that. So again, 11 games in, it's still early. My take on the Knicks, I'm not going to put them up there at 3 where you guys are sitting them at. I think still early, 5 or 6, maybe 4. But again, you have the Chicagos. You have the Wiz, who've been playing great now. Again, it's only 11 games in.
That was going to be my question. Where do you have the Wiz at? I mean,
I'm not, and I've said this, and listeners know I'm conservative with that, with my expectations with them. If they play the way they've been playing now, consistently through that, where we're winning games that I feel, hey, these are games we should win in the fashion that we win, and we're competitive in some of the games that we came up a little short. Atlanta, Toronto, but we beat the Bucks for whatever. I don't make too much about that. Then again, I put us in that mid-range mix again, 5, 6. It can all, depending on the wins and losses, is where you can get seeded. So I'll be able to make a better assessment when they play, when our team plays, the Knicks again, when they play some of the other mid-range teams that I consider, Chicago's and some of the other teams, to see where they fit. And don't forget about Miami too. You can't, especially when it comes late in the season and playoffs, there's somebody to be reckoned with.
Yeah, totally agree with that, man. And like I said, we'll revisit that. We always bring back episodes, man, and we'll retouch that. Also, since we're talking about the NBA, we just got to give it to you guys, man. This is the main topic of concern. The media is all over this. All sports podcasts are all over this. Man, what's going on with Russell Westbrook and the Los Angeles Lakers? I'll let you go in, start this one off, RnB. Give your take on what is happening.
It's all about cohesion.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the Lakers are not bonding well. And to me personally, I see a little bit of selfish play. I think if you care about the guys that you're playing with and you're trying to help them get better, trying to put them in better positions to make shots, then I think once you take that mentality where you're not, I don't need 35 tonight for myself, but I'm trying to tee up a couple comments for you, Ksapp, for you, 1V, to try to put you in better position to make our broadcast overall better. And I don't see Wes doing that right now. Wes still feels that he needs to score, and I'm okay with him, trying to get buckets and things like that. But he's on a very talented team that he doesn't need to do it all, and he hasn't adjusted very well initially for me. Al Green says it's a bad fit. It's hard to argue with that comment right now.
Exactly.
It's hard to argue with it. But, as I said last week, it's early.
Mm-hmm.
If nobody's tripping about the Bucks being 4-6, then I can't be tripping about the Lakers being 6-5. Maybe it's now if you watched each one of those games, that's a different story because I didn't watch them games.
Yes.
So I got a little bit of heartburn from watching them games. Being up 26, lose the game. Being up 19, lose the game. Being up 9 in the fourth, going to overtime last night.
Yes.
It's like, man, give you a little bit of heartburn.
It's
a little early.
It's early.
I don't want to bash on Russ. I don't want to put it all on him. You know what I mean? Because I think anytime you get 12 new players on a team, it's going to take a little bit of time to get it developed. So I'll cap it off right there.
Yeah, I mean that's a great take, and I'm gonna dive in here real quick, and then we'll get a floor to Mr. V. Al, I can't disagree with what you stated. A bad fit right now because it looks like a bad fit right now. Mm-hmm. And I've always said everybody gets so caught up in Russell Westbrook's stats. Oh, he's posting these triple doubles. He's doing this and doing that. But also coming with them triple doubles are coming with bad decisions when it gets in crunch time. And that's the problem I have with Russ right now. When it gets to where we can close these games off, his decision making is terrible. And it's just the fact that, like last night, like Rob, alluded to, we're up 9. Carmelo goes out. He's hot as fish grease. He doesn't come back in the game until they got a technical free throw that he shoots. Didn't get a touch. Then down the stretch, Russell Westbrook, 5 major turnovers to let Charlotte back in the game on his decision making. And then you want to play hero ball. Then you started going 2-on-5. It was just him and AD. But the problem I have with that is certain players know where certain players need the ball on the court to be effective, right? So if I'm a jump shooter and I get to my spot, I'm waiting for to get a touch. Russell Westbrook doesn't see that. He don't have to go 100 miles an hour every time on every play, because if you notice, like some of his lobs, they're underhand lobs, and the defense knocks the ball down instead of him just shooting the ball up there and let the big men go get it. That's a lot of his turnovers. Some of his reckless shots, like his shot selection, like Russ, you're the master of that bank shot. Stick to what you know. All them 3-pointers that you're launching, Lakers don't need that. So when it comes down to decision making, Russ is not making the proper decision for what the Lakers need. And before LeBron got hurt in that Houston game, when they all 3 played together, I saw something. I said, okay, this might work. But when LeBron goes out, and like you always said, they brought Russ in for the games that LeBron don't play to win these games. But when you're up 26 and it's terrible and you let him come back, you can't have that. So it's like, I don't know what's going on, man. He just has to make better decision making. I don't want to put it all on Russ, but the continuity with the team, health is going to be key, man. And like I said, if LeBron is not healthy, I don't know what this Lakers team going to do.
Well,
yeah,
I'm gonna take a minute.
Russ is better than what he's showing, but I mean, he's overthinking it, man. And he's playing at home. He's playing in front of the bright lights now. So, that might have something to do with it. But, other than that, man, it's early, 11 games in. You can't panic. Like you said, Rob, Milwaukee 4-7, the Lakers 6-5. So we just got to give it some time. Health is key. And once they get all their pieces back, because the Lakers got a lot of moving parts, man, that hasn't been in the lineup. So, it's just, you got to, like they say, you got to stay the course. Can't get too high, can't get too low. So, Mr. V, I'll let you jump in. I know you eager to say that because you watched Russ play on the Wiz last year.
Absolutely.
So I know you got a lot to say. So let's get your take.
I'll keep it concise. That's been said about a lot of players going to a new situation, especially high value players that go to teams. We talked about that in Brooklyn. Is it going to work? How's it going to work? What's KD's role going to be? What's Kyrie's role going to be? What's James Harden's role, going to be? They talked about it in LA, everywhere LeBron went. So this happens. And going back to the Wizards, they brought in Russ. In the beginning, it didn't start off as a match made in heaven. There was a lot of questions. And can him and Beal work together? Is his style of play, is that, conducive to winning? And what happened is he went down the stretch. It became effective. And, he put us in a good position. I'll say this. Every team that picks their players, the Lakers saw Westbrook available. They made a play for him and got him in there. You know what you're getting. He's played the same way he's played his whole career. So part of him is like, what do y'all expect? You brought him in. He's been successful and put himself in a position to be selected by the Lakers because of how he played and what he brought to the table. So one thing, is it fair to bring him in and say, hey, slow down. Don't be you so much. Be you at certain times, when him being him is what makes him, a Hall of Fame player going in there with the triple doubles and everything else he brought. Also, too, like you guys said, and I'll be short, 11 games in. He's feeling out the teams. You have key injuries. You have some tough games that they played in the West. Make no bones about it. It's tough out there. And as the premier team, or arguably the premier team in the West with LeBron, so they automatically have, a bullseye on them. You're going to have these other teams gunning for them that a lot of the teams have already been together. They're already cohesive, so they have an advantage coming in against LA, in the mystique of LA, of wanting to knock them off and having the key injuries there. So let's see how the season progresses. let's see how Russ, just like any other player, adapts to the new environment, gets used to his role and how things go midseason and late. And maybe we'll see he does what he did with the Wizards. He got in where he fit in, being the Russell that he's been his whole career and how that worked. Maybe the players around Russ will adjust a little bit to how he's playing to work with that, kind of like Carmelo has adjusted his game where he's still Carmelo, but he's Carmelo as needed to be with the pieces that are around him. But just to sum it up again, you brought Russ in because he's Russ. To me, it's a little tough, and I'll defend him a little bit to say, hey, I need you to not be so much of you. Even though we brought you in because of you, we don't want you to be you so much. I don't know who they would ask that for any player that they're bringing in to any type of situation.
Agreed. I'll just make two quick comments. Number one, I believe Russ is better than what he's playing. Mm-hmm. And then the second comment is I was on record last year, Mr. V, you remember when I said I think Russ's energy will help the Wiz win 50-50 games on an off night during the week.
Yes.
And I just believed that. But it didn't happen early in the season like I thought they would. I thought by Russ being able to get the team over that hump early in the season would put the Wiz in a better position for come playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't expect them to kind of be in a situation where they was in the play-in. I just thought Russ's play early in the season would be enough energy to win some games that they normally wouldn't win.
Right.
It didn't happen that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was on record saying that last year. So now it's one of those things where you understand what the end results potentially can be.
Yes.
So you have to be patient with Russ in getting there.
Yes.
And right now he's surrounded with more talent than what he was last year. So you would only naturally think it's going to work itself out. Hopefully sooner than later.
Right.
But for me, Christmas, I'm okay.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And see, my thing is, all valid points, but my thing is, Russ, you've been in the league 13 years, right? What has that got you? It got you to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when your days are done, right?
Number one.
With all the stats, no question he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. No question. You can't deny that. When Russ's name comes up, he gets in. But what I'm saying is 13 years in the league, when all these basketball savants always talking about basketball IQ, I think that's something that Russ lacks. He lacks that basketball IQ because, like Rob said, you bring him in, he does have a lot of energy, but you want to uplift some of the guys. You know what I'm saying? You got to know the guys' tendencies, right? So 13 years in the league, and Russ, the way he's played, hasn't got him nowhere, right? So now you got to think, what can I do different to help my ball club win? And like I'm saying is, his energy is great. His pace is great. The Lakers' pace last year, they was 25th in the league. This year, they're second in the league in pace. And you talking about the old guys, but hold up. They second in the league in pace. And everybody's talking about their age. So I think with Russ, it's a matter of fact, yeah, you're so effective when you're in transition. But when it comes down to a half-court set and you're asking him to run the sets, that's where the IQ is lost for me. Like, his decision-making is terrible. Like, and I've always said this. When I saw him play with LeBron before he got hurt against Houston, I said, man, this can work out because as long as LeBron is out there making the primary decision-making, that'll cover Russ's flaws.
There you go.
So, I mean, if that can transition, and LeBron, like I said, the key is LeBron. LeBron has to stay healthy, and I think Father Time is catching up to LeBron on these injuries. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, leave it at that.
I want to co-sign what you said real quick, Ksapp, and you pointed it out. When has Russ ever been lauded for his half-court game? He's not Chris Paul. Okay, that's not what has made him famous, and he's made his bread and butter there. So I agree with you when you said they're asking him to do something different. Well, hey, the person asking should say, well, no, I've got my piece here. I need to fit my piece in where it's supposed to go based on what that piece brings to the table. not necessarily ask a player like Russell Westbrook and his caliber, Hall of Fame and what he brings, hey, can you change it up? No, you bring the piece in, and I put this piece where it goes on the chessboard to match with the other pieces there as needed. And you said it right. LeBron's out. It's early in the season. Let everybody get back to 100% and then work out where the pieces and
that's
how
the
they
key
work
right
best.
there, because like anybody says, if anybody can make this work, it's LeBron. But I don't like what I'm seeing when LeBron is not in the game. These are games that the Lakers should win with the way Russell Westbrook plays. And like Rob said, last year what he did with the Wiz, the 50-50 games that they should win, he's getting them over the hump. So it's like if LBJ is not in there, it's like a struggle. It's still a struggle. Like the record with LBJ not being in uniform and the talent that he has around him, and they can't get victories, that's alarming. And the way he plays, he should be able to bring the Lakers home to some of these victories, but it's not accumulating to that. And like I said, the key, I'm gonna leave this alone, is LBJ's injuries.
The only thing that I really want to say though is number one, it's early. But two, I believe that Russ and Bill developed a bond and a friendship like they was 1 and 2. I think Russ really trusted him. Russ was able to defer to Bill late in the season, but it wasn't one of those things that happened early.
Right.
But I think that it's going to be the same way, that it's easy right now for Russ to trust AD. It's easy right now for him to trust LeBron. But last night he didn't trust Melo.
Why not? And he was hot as fish grease. Why are you not trusting Melo? If it wasn't for Melo in these games, Melo has saved the Lakers in all the games that they played at Staples to get the victory. It's been Melo that's carried them home. So why are you not trusting a man that is a bona fide scorer and could get to his spots anytime he wants?
Is it trust?
Trust Melo, because if you truly watch the game, that Melo was hot as a firecracker. He was hot as fish grease, right? And then me and Ksapp, we talked about this. We were on the phone at 1 o'clock last night. Like, man, get Melo the ball.
Because we got to get our program right for the next day.
And here was the thing. Melo ended up rushing shots. He rushed a 3-point shot because he hadn't touched the ball in literally 5 minutes.
Yes.
And it was like Russ, it was 2-on-5. AD and Russ wanted to play back and forth, and all they was doing was just turn the ball over, taking turns turning the ball over. And I'm saying,
Only agree.
Russ has to see, okay, Melo's the go-to guy. It's not me tonight. Get him the ball. If he's hot, feed him. Because people get upset when LeBron does this, when LeBron has the ball. But what LeBron will do, if somebody's hot, he will give it to him 19 times. He will give it to him 20 times if they hitting shots. And then even to a point where the last shot of the game, LeBron will give them that same shot. And everybody will be looking at LeBron like, why ain't LeBron take the shot?
Facts.
Well, it goes back to what Ksapp says. It's a basketball IQ. If the man's got it going, give him the ball.
Facts.
Give him the ball. It's early in the season. And I'm willing to get through those points early in the season because I'm going to need him come playoff times. Period. And right now, Russ, it seems like Melo's getting the shine, and Russ don't like it, and he can't get with it right now.
Maybe Russ, and you guys watch the Lakers games with a much closer eye than I do, or maybe Russ is trying to contribute, and he's like, yes, Melo, you're the hot hand, you're carrying the load. I want to also contribute that too, and maybe the part of that is not him trying to be selfish, but him trying to also contribute to that. So, not to take away from Melo again, but it's a team sport. Hey, Ksapp, you're hot. I can keep feeding you in the post. If you get doubled or whatever, get it out to me and I'm wide open. As a teammate, you're going to expect me, hey, hit that jumper to give me some breathing room so I can go back to work. Just saying. And you guys watch the game. maybe there's some examples of, okay, they brought me here to be a difference maker. It's not all on Melo's back. I ain't taking away from him, but I want to contribute to help my team, but it just ain't happened. But again, it's been Russ's, that's been his forte, where he's 100, full throttle, 100% all the time.
Yes.
And, sometimes, as we've seen, that doesn't always translate into what looks like team basketball and getting the ball to the person that we think, should have it when the time comes.
And one of our viewers has a great point, which Al Green says they need to play some defense.
Exactly. And I was going to touch on that.
They need to play some defense. And I see at times that, they make a nice little run and then somebody switches the man and then they don't get in help position and they give up the tray ball.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, play your man, fight over top of that screen.
Exactly. Say
fight
that
over
all the
top
time.
of the screen. You know?
And I totally agree with Al's assessment on that. And when I say defense, last night, that last possession in overtime where they stopped him from hitting the three, that showed the Lakers' capability of playing defense and rotating to the ball. Everybody got back to the ball. Even Melo is Melo. Actually, I have nothing wrong with the way Melo's playing defense. Melo's out there hustling. He's out there getting steals. He's getting block shots. He's getting rebounds. But the thing about what I said about Russell Westbrook, I thought he was a better defender than what he has displayed since he's been with the Lakers.
I told you that. I thought he was too.
11 games in.
11 games in, but I just thought he was a better defender because with the Lakers as a whole, the defense is terrible. Al said they're 28th in the league. I agree with that. But Russell Westbrook's on-ball defense, I thought it was better than what he has displayed in these first 11 games.
Now, Ksapp, remember this. Now, here is a Laker tendency over the last couple of years is that they will pity-pat through a game just to buy time.
Not expending that energy.
And then get you late in the third and choke you out on defense. They would choke you out on defense, and I don't see that pattern right now that, if anything, they're getting choked out.
Yes.
Teams are making 10, 12, 15-point runs on them. Where Staples was, they just go through a game, keep it even, and then they will choke you out and then coast to the fourth quarter for the win. They haven't developed that defensive tenacity yet to get to that point where they know how to close out a quarter, close out a game, because they're still worried about the offensive end. Who's shooting it?
Yeah. And it's crazy that you said that. And I we'll move on from here, but it's crazy that you said that because if you look at all 11 games that the Lakers has played, they've been up in all 11 games, and they haven't closed the quarters out well enough to win these games. And that's what's concerning to me because when I say decision-making and coming down the stretch, regardless of how bad you played that game, but in the fourth quarter, you have a lead, and you can't hold on to that lead because unforced turnovers. They're not turnovers that they're forcing you into. They're self-inflicted turnovers on yourself, just like last night. Westbrook dribbling the ball out of bounds, dribbling the ball into the backcourt, goes around the baseline, tries to throw the ball to AD, throws it right into Plumlee. Like decisions like that, you can't have that when you're trying to close games out. But 11 games in, we'll see how it unfolds. And like I said, health is key. And me personally, if LeBron's not healthy, this is no valid point. It's nothing to talk about. So we'll move on from there and we'll jump over to the NFL. Situations come up with the Packers' Aaron Rodgers, where I think before the season started, I think he finagled the media to, say that he was immunized, not vaccinated, but immunized. So do y'all think that he kind of finagled the NFL and all the media that, he took the shot? Or is that something the NFL needs to come down hard on him, suspension or anything like that? I'll let you take it away, Mr. V.
Him talking to the media, that's one thing. If we're going to hold him accountable for misleading the media, then, hey, that to me, that sets a precedence, and that's something that then every NFL player and eventually every professional player, they're going to, hold them accountable for what they say to the media or what they don't say. That's one aspect right there. But if his team knew, if the NFL knew his status, I'll say this: what's the issue? If he lied to a reporter for them, if he misled them, but his players, the rest of the NFL knew his status, where's the issue? I'll say that, because people that would be most affected playing with him, if they knew, hey, we know the guy didn't get his vaccine and we're out here, he's getting his test like others who haven't gotten it. So technically he's no different than anyone else who hasn't been vaccinated. They're going through the protocols that the NFL set up. He just misled the media, which misled a lot of the public then. So I ask, how much of an issue should that be for him when it comes to the NFL? Do you suspend him because he made a false statement to the media, even though the NFL already knew the truth? Does that matter? Or are we trying to hold him accountable and saying, hey, they should do something to him because he told us, even though you guys know the truth, because he told us something that made us feel a certain way, then he needs to be punished for that. I don't know. I don't necessarily know if he's doing what he was supposed to do according to the NFL. He's following their rules. That's who signs his paychecks. He's good with them. Whether we felt he was vaccinated or not, what difference does that make? Because we're not the players that are going to be affected by that, and we're not writing his paycheck. So that's my stance on him as far as what he said to the media.
Well, just before you take it over, Rob, I just want to say one thing. Al, this just came in. Al said the Packers was fined $300K. Rodgers was fined $12K. And I go back to what Mr. V said. I don't think the NFL knew his status. I don't think the NFL was aware of what Aaron Rodgers' situation was. And the reason why I say this is because the NFL protocol states if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to come to the press conference with a mask on, or any interviews that you conduct, you don't have to have a mask on. That's NFL protocol. But what we see typically of Aaron Rodgers, every post conference he's in, every time he's talking, he never has a mask on. So, I mean, he made it believe that, he was vaccinated. So I don't even know if the players knew his situation, because when the week before, when Devontae Adams and the other guys, the Lazard, came up on the protocol list, he was stunned by that because them guys are vaccinated, right? So, they get the tests and the protocols the same way that every other team gets. But for Aaron Rodgers to go on record to say that he was immunized, but he's getting these studies from comedians and other people, like, he didn't take the vaccination. So I think he finagled his way in the media to, once he said that, for the media to stop asking. So that's my take on it. So, well, Rob, we'll let you take it away.
Ksapp, I'm gonna put it this way: simply ball dropping. Simply ball dropping on the NFL, on the Packers, and on Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers asked the league to approve his cocktail of medication to say he was vaccinated.
Wait, say that again. Say that again, RnB.
He asked the league, will they approve his medication cocktail that was prescribed by his doctor? The league rejected that. Okay. So to say that the league didn't know is blasphemy.
There you go.
Okay. So now we're dealing with that. So now he's not vaccinated. He's saying he's immunized. However you want to say it, they're one and the same. The other issue is, now that the league knows that he hasn't officially taken Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, or Moderna, he is not vaccinated. So they didn't hold him accountable to his press conferences, wearing the mask, on the field after the game, wearing the mask, on the sideline, wearing the mask. They already know this. The Packers knew this. And they allowed him to do what he wanted to do.
Yep.
Period. Everyone else in the league is, following protocol. And that's why I say simply ball dropping because the league dropped the ball, the Packers dropped the ball, and Aaron Rodgers tried to get away with it until he ended up getting caught and got sick. Now, we don't want anybody to get sick, so he was being irresponsible in his behavior. Totally. He wasn't supposed to be going to Halloween parties. He wasn't supposed to be doing any of that, and he did it anyway. The league knew, the Packers knew. He should get games, period.
So wait a minute, RnB. So if you're saying the league knew, the team knew of his vaccination status.
Yes,
they knew he wasn't vaccinated.
Where's your card?
Now, if they knew he wasn't vaccinated,
yes,
then to me, they hold him accountable for not following the protocols for non-vaccinated players then, but that's it. Him telling the media, now that's one thing there.
No. I'm okay with that because coaches during the press conference, who's starting this week? Well, we're still trying to figure that out. He's 90% healthy. The ankle is a little bit tender. So, it'll be a game time decision. Totally misleading from a coach's standpoint.
Right.
What Aaron Rodgers did was he gave false information and right now
to who?
To the public.
And what difference does that make as far as the NFL?
He's immunized.
But what difference does that make what difference does that make to the public? So if Aaron Rodgers came up to us three and we said, "Hey, did you get the vaccine?" and he said, "Yes, I did," but he didn't, should he be fined for lying to us? Because all he did was lie to us just using the media.
No, it makes a difference. For me and you, if I know that you're vaccinated, it makes a difference on how I approach you if I see you in public. Okay.
Right.
Someone that's not vaccinated, okay, I might be a little bit cautious on how I approach them. Okay. So I'm saying other people are seeing the same information that I'm seeing when Aaron Rodgers is saying he's immunized. So after the game, I'm dapping you up like you cool, like you already got your shots. Right? And I'm saying you didn't.
You as a fan, shots. You as a fan going to dap him up because we take that
as a player. I'm saying as a fellow player after the game, and you don't have your mask on, then and you've been acting like you are vaccinated, which he wasn't. He's going out there dapping everybody up like he is. He didn't follow the protocol, just like Al said.
Well, then I think he should be held accountable by the team, and the team should be held accountable for him not following the protocol, not for him lying to the media. Two different things.
Well, they got fined. So they are being held accountable.
Yes, and I saw that. So, showing that $300K fine should be for the Packers because you guys didn't hold him accountable. You allowed him to interact with people and not wear his mask and stuff. And Aaron Rodgers, he should be held accountable because he knew what he was supposed to do, but I don't think he should be crucified for him. He can be crucified for lying because, hey, you lied to us. You're a liar about that. You misled us. But should you be fined for lying to the media and the public? What do we got to do with that?
Here's all I'm saying. The league knew.
Yeah, they knew.
The league, when he put in the request for this cocktail to be accepted, and they've rejected it. And they put out a statement today. The NFL did put out a statement today saying that, in no way did they give consent or did they, approve of this cocktail,
right?
Prescription, whatever you want to call it, that he was taking.
Yes.
And but my point though is they said it today, but they saw him in these interviews. They saw him on the field after the games. That's why I say they dropped the ball too.
Yes,
everybody's giving them a pass.
No, that's why I said I don't give them. I put the accountability. And Al, you said it again. And Al's a member of Simply Ball Dropping, so he needs to get on the podcast and be there so he can make these statements in person instead of sending messages. We appreciate that. But I agree. You hold the league, the team, and the league accountable for not holding him to the standards that they prescribed. Him lying to the media, to me, that's a separate issue there. And it's whatever. I look at it, him lying to the media has the same effect of him coming up and lying to me about it as a fan. He could have called the house and said, hey, Mr. V, you know what? I'm vaccinated, okay, and I'm watching this game from the couch, or if I go to one of the games in the stadium, I take a choice to dap him up. But do I feel that he should be suspended a game or penalized for lying to me? No, I'm just a fan. The media is just a microphone. That's who they are. So you tell them what you want. But the league, like you said, I think they're the ones that held accountable because they knew his status, and they didn't hold him accountable for following the protocols he needed to do during those times. Two separate issues to me.
This is a delicate subject that really has divided a nation. And we've even talked about this once before on the podcast, you know, whether you're vaccinated, whether you're not vaccinated. I'm okay with whatever your choice is, okay? I have no problem. If you feel that that's not for you, then I'm okay with that. All I'm saying is properly identify what your status/situation is. So now I can make a decision on what's best for me. As you just made the decision what's best for you. You decided not to do it. I'm okay with that. Identify that to me correctly. That's what I'm saying.
Does he have to? Would it be any different if he'd have said, like many people say in public, that's none of your business, I don't want to say?
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
he could say that. He could say my decision. I don't want to say it.
You do have that choice, but I also have a choice in my response.
Yes.
So when you ask me for a ride and because you're out of gas, you try to figure that out.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree that he shouldn't have lied. He shouldn't have misled people. I just think that's a thing that if the media's holding him accountable, all they can do is say, hey, Aaron Rodgers, we have to take what you say with a grain of salt because you lied to us before, just like I would if that was me and him in a personal thing. And, hey, Aaron Rodgers, you need a ride? Sure. Are you vaccinated? Yes. And then he gets in the car and I found out that he's not. Hey, man, you lied to me. But to me, that has nothing to do with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers in dealing with that. That's a one-on-one issue with whoever he's dealing with.
I want both of you to answer this question. Okay. I'm the doctor. I'm giving the shots. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm giving the shots. What's your preference on which shot you want, Mr. V? Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson?
Moderna. Already been there. So Moderna is what it was.
Okay. So you come in and you're ready for your booster shot, right? And you say, hey, do you have the Moderna? And I say, yeah. Okay. Boom, give you the shot. Writing down on the card, it was Pfizer. How do you feel?
I'm obviously hot.
That's misrepresentation right there.
That is misrepresenting me one-on-one to me. I look at his situation where
you just let Aaron Rodgers do that to you.
No, but I'm not. But if I go up to anybody,
retreat, dribble.
If I go up to you, Ksapp, or anybody on the street, if I go up to anybody on the street and ask them their vaccination status, they have the options to tell me the truth, don't say anything, or lie.
I agree.
Yes, I can be sore at him for lying, like Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he lied. Period. He misled it. That's not without question. But that's it. Now I go up to you, Rob RnB, and I ask you, hey, what's your vaccination status? And you say, yeah, I'm good. I got vaccinated. I'm good. And I find out that you weren't. Do I call your job and say, hey, y'all need to find Rob or you need to fire him because he lied to me? Your job's going to be like, what Rob and you have going on has nothing to do with us. We know his status and we deal with him here on the workplace. What he does outside the workplace or what he tells somebody who's not involved in the workplace, that don't have nothing to do with it. And that's how I look at that situation.
As his employer, they didn't keep him accountable.
Yeah, so that's why I said, and that's why Al put it on there. The bigger fine is on the team because it's their fault. Yeah. If I contact your job and ask my job contacts your job and say, yeah, we're having a meeting. Hey, is your employee vaccinated? And they say they don't say anything, and we meet up. then I hold your job accountable, because those are the people that are supposed to hold you accountable, not you personally.
You think the league didn't know?
Oh, I know they know. I know that. That's why I said that's why they should have gotten a bigger fine, because those are the ones who let him break protocol by not wearing his mask and do the stuff, lying to us. Hey, he lied to me. And
yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation, but the NFL got their protocols and guidelines that the players got to abide by, and he didn't abide by it. It falsified. He falsified some information to the media, which the media covers the NFL, and they're going to take that and they're going to have headlines about that. So it was a storyline. So when it came out to find out that he was tested positive for COVID and he's not been vaccinated, he then threw the blindfolders over everybody's eyes, making people think that, he took the glitch, but he didn't. So that's just bottom line. I mean, we can go on for days about this, but before we get into our rapid fire session, quick rapid fire session, we got to pay some bills and we'll be right back.
Here at True Choice, we take a different philosophy when it comes to providing you with your insurance options. We emphasize the value of the products we offer, instead of playing on the fear of you not being protected in your time of need. True Choice is affiliated with more than 60 insurance companies. This makes us one of the most independent agencies in the state of Texas. Please visit TrueChoiceInsurance.com for all your insurance needs.
All right, and rapid fire session. I'm gonna start it off with my rapid fire. My rapid fire, I'm talking about the Minnesota Vikings. I've always said this. It's come to a point where now that we got to get rid of Mike Zimmer, we got to get rid of Clint Kubiak. We got to get rid of our offensive coordinator. We got to get rid of Zimmer. Zimmer is out there calling the defense, and the defense has not been living up to the billing. I know Patrick Peterson is hurt right now, but to give up the points that we're given in crunch time, with the way Zimmer's, doing the defensive play calling, it's unacceptable. Everybody's been calling for Zimmer. It's time for Zimmer to step away. It's time for us to get a new direction. And also with the offense, our offense is too damn conservative, and we'll never beat no good team playing conservative ball the way we do, trying to set on leads, and it's not working. And that's my rapid fire.
1V, hit it.
First off, shout out to my Wiz, sitting good, 7-3, like what I see. That's the only team I'm going to talk about right now in the city of Washington, because another team's irrelevant right now. No need to bring them up. Also, good fighting, good boxing, and good UFC over the weekend. Shout out to Canelo. Shout out to the undercards. They were great bouts on there. So hopefully you get Dewan, you get Rod back on there to talk about some boxing and what they saw there. And UFC, Usman getting that decision over Colby Covington was a good match, good towards the end. So for those of you that don't tune into the combat sports, they had some good things coming up, and I see some good things in the future.
My shout out is to the female bantamweight champion, Rose, Thug Rose.
Yeah.
She defended the belt in UFC in a fight that she's the champion, and she was heavily underdog.
Yes.
Yeah. And she took she took it for 5 rounds and came out victorious.
Yes.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
I mean, the fighter in her, I don't think people see it all the time.
Right.
And she beat the defender. Yeah, she beat her the first time with a kick straight to the head. It was crazy. It was like, boom, just hit her in the head. And everybody thought that was one of them things where it was like fictitious. And to see her come back, first fight back, and defend that belt and go 5 rounds and punish her in the 5th round.
Yes.
That's my shout out to Thug Rose.
Yes. Very impressive win. That was a very impressive win, RnB.
Yes,
I give her kudos for that, because I thought Wei Lee was gonna avenge that loss, because she lost with a kick the first time. So anybody, one punch, one hit can take you out. But Thug Rose, she held her ground, and she definitely earned that kept that championship as she should. Absolutely.
Rob, I'm glad you stated that, man. Giving the women their flowers. Sometimes on these podcasts and these sports shows, man, a lot of people don't want to give the ladies their flowers, in due respect, man. And I appreciate you bringing that up. about that match. I don't know if a lot of people. I know a lot of people watch the combat sports. I know they do. A lot of people prefer that over boxing because it gets gritty. And Saturday night, like Mr. V, you brought up about the Canelo fight, great fight, but that fight ended right in time for the main event of the UFC, the Covington and the Usman. That was a good fight, and Covington, after the first round, he got stung a couple times, but he started coming on. But the thing about it is, like, I think the blood that Uzma displayed on him, I think it kind of affected him because, Uzma don't let nobody take him down, and he was avoiding them takedowns, man, and that was key. And all Usman had to do was stand his ground and throw his punches, and he would come out victorious like he did. But that was a great fight, man. So, but the Canelo fight, I know Rob is a big Canelo fan. We talk about this off record. I just thought Caleb Plant, he was effective early. He stood his ground, but that Canelo left hook, man, it's man, he was bona fide with that. And like I told Rob off record, that just goes to show you the greatness of Floyd Mayweather. That's all I got to say.
Ksapp, that's a sucker shot. That's
not a sucker shot.
It is because it's like hitting somebody after the bell, just like we talked about today. I mean, look, I said I'll be the first one to say I got to go back and look at the tape again, but I mean, Canelo is at a different weight right now. He is just he's just in a class by himself.
Oh yes, I agree with that.
And all I'm saying is that Mayweather wouldn't. I mean, Mayweather stepped up in weight, like you said. It was a step up weight, but man, he's at 169 right now. The step up at the time was 155. Canelo wasn't throwing punches like he's throwing right now. I mean,
but Rob, you got to understand something. You got to understand something. Mayweather walks around at 147, right? Mm-hmm. Canelo came down to meet him at that catch weight of 155, right? So what I'm saying is, when Canelo walked into that ring that night, Canelo was 168 when he walked in the ring against Mayweather. He was already the bigger opponent. But for people to go on this notion to say Mayweather don't hit hard, Canelo never ran up on him.
Right.
And Mayweather just sat back and he boxed him, and Mayweather stood his ground, stayed in the pocket, shoulder rolled, and he got with Canelo. And that's why I said the way Canelo been fighting since the Mayweather fight, that's just testament to how great Mayweather is.
Hey, we talked about this earlier today, and Rod saying that right now is Canelo and Charlo. I'm not sure Charlo wants that smoke.
I don't think so either.
I don't think he wants that smoke.
I don't think the twins want it.
I mean, if I'm looking at it for what it is right now, just like on paper, and I'm Vegas, I'm saying it's probably 700 to minus, I don't know, 350 or something. I mean, it's not even. It's like I can't see Canelo losing that fight. I could not. I can't envision that. And from an odds perspective, I would have to say Canelo would be heavy favorite.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he'd be a heavy favorite.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
So I mean, from that perspective, shout out to Dallas Cowboys. Try to get back on. Try to get back. Next week. Took a little bit of bump. It's hard. It's hard when you won 6 in a row. You know what I mean? So it's one of them things, it's one of them things.
It ain't what you do when you lose, is what you do after the loss. You got to see what they do after the loss.
RnB, I'll say this, and obviously I support Washington, and that's historically has been our biggest rival, whether we win the Super Bowl or not. Usually if we beat Dallas, then we're celebrating like we won the Super Bowl, which shouldn't be how it's been. But
where you calling from?
If you lose. If you want to lose, you lose now.
I'm calling from Frederick, Maryland. Great show tonight, gentlemen. And I would like to talk about Russell Westbrook some more. Obviously, my Wizards have won the trade, the Westbrook trade. Okay, the pieces that we got KCP, Kyle Kuzma, Spencer Dinwiddie, and we want to give a big shout out to Montrezl Harrell, who is balling for my team right now.
Well, I totally agree with the Montrezl Harrell. Lakers never had a problem with Montrezl Harrell.
No, he was part of that whole Russell Westbrook trade.
Exactly. He was part of the trade. He was part of the trade.
It was a three-team trade.
Exactly.
Yes.
But Vogel threw him out of the rotation.
Yeah, but the Wizards obviously won that. This is what we got in exchange for Russell Westbrook.
So let me ask you this, Megan. Let me ask you this. So if the Lakers go to win the championship, who wins the trade?
They won't win the championship. The Wizards still won. There you go. And I'm saying that.
So you're saying the Lakers ain't gonna win the championship?
No, you don't forget that team that's playing in the Bay right now. Okay.
Okay.
There
All right. Well, thanks for calling in.
Give me some buttons right now. Look, you'd be hard pressed to say she was wrong. Period.
Exactly.
I mean, you right now you cannot say at all she was wrong.
We agree with that on the top of the show.
If we're grading right now, absolutely, they won that trade.
They stole it.
Yeah. Look, you might even think it was a little bit too much for what you was getting.
Exactly. What you always say, Rob? Bank heist? That was a bank heist, huh?
Bank heist.
I don't know if it's a bank heist, but that's worked out for us so far. I think we got more pieces that we need.
It wasn't like Herschel Walker. It wasn't Herschel Walker in the Vikings and nothing.
Oh my goodness, Rob! Hey, now see that you talking about low blows, man? You see that you didn't have to go there, man. Stop.
I mean, we got chips out of that. So
there you go.
Hey,
one quick thing, Ksapp. Want to shout out some of the folks that sent the message in. Brian Kelly, of course, Mr. Al Green. Al, you need to be on one of the podcasts, at least one. Get on here and share your knowledge and stuff with us there. And Rod Elder's been on there. DeJuan Hall's been on there talking about boxing. Shout out to the caller that just went in. I think you said her name is Megan. I'm going to try to slide in her DMs real quick and see where we can go with that, because anybody that's that knowledgeable and supports my Wizards, I need to get with them on a one-on-one basis. So, caller, if I slide in your DMs, it's Mr. V in there. Go ahead and hit me back, and we can see where they can take that. But all the interaction with the listeners and the fans is always good to see on there. Hopefully, they're encouraged to do it more and bring some more people onto the podcast.
Man, that's great, Mr. V. I appreciate that. And before you go, Rob, I want to say one thing. Al, if you're still in the chat, I know, just like Rob is a big Canelo fan, I know you a big Bud fan. Now, we do got our boxing episode coming back up. Me, DeJuan, and Rod, and you're going to be a participant. So I'll get with you after the show because I know you like Bud Crawford. You got a lot of things to say about Bud, and we're going to break this Porter and Crawford fight down to a T, because that's coming up November 20th. That's right around the corner. So we got to get that episode in. And I see DeJuan just chimed in, and I know DeJuan is eager to, talk about it. Also, he wants to talk about his boy Devin Haney as well. So we're gonna break that down. So that's my take on it, and that's what I would like to say. So Al, I'll be getting with you. Go ahead, Rob.
First shout out, like I said, to Megan for participating today in the show. Seems like her and Mr. V got something going on in the chat room. They talking about DMing each other and all this good stuff. So I'll let them take care of that. But certainly appreciate the call in. And I think you did make a great perspective. So it was a valid point, good content, and we encourage the ladies to always dial in when they have the opportunity, because this platform is not only for just us men, but for the ladies as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a pleasure to get on the airways and chat with my fellas, and always listen to and see the comments from our viewers and listeners. So once again, I thank you.
Man, and I appreciate that. And one last thing I want to do before we wrap it up, I want to give a major shout out to Rob and his wife Johnita.
Mm-hmm.
They was on our Simply Ball Dropping Marriage Chronicles. Touch bases on their love story and maintaining a healthy marriage, and them two only not was on the the broadcast, but they're doing big things as well. So I want to give a shout out to, Rob and Janita and their Be Pressing. So you get a chance, Be Pressing is where a lot of things happen. So I just want to give them a major shout out. So y'all keep doing y'all's thing and appreciate everything that you do for me as well. So just want to take this time to shout out Be Pressing.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's where this came from. This thing is sharp. Shout out Boho Chic.
Yes.
Be pressing Boho Chic and Simply Ball Dropping. The threesome. Can't beat that.
Man, and like I said, man, it's always a pleasure. And guys, I want to appreciate you guys tuning in. But do me a favor, man, for the people that you probably, hasn't watched the show, we was live. We take call-ins. I posted the call on the screen. So guys, don't be afraid to call in. You got questions. I think the chat is fine, but if you really want to get something off your chest, man, give us a call, man. We right here. We're going to answer all the questions to the best of our knowledge. We all agree to disagree. It's a lot of things that was going on in the chat, and I do appreciate that. So like I said, once again, that'll wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping podcast. Once again, I'm your host and the man behind the mic, Ksapp, and we're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Droppin' podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.